أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين وخاتم النبيين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين روحي وأرواحنا وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنفقوا مما رزقكم الله ولا تلغوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين صدق الله العلي العظيم. May Allah inshallah help us to have the tawfiq and opportunity to recite Quran, to understand the message of Quran, and to apply the teachings of the Quran in our everyday lives the way that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam taught us properly with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Last night I mentioned a question that I will answer tonight regarding philosophy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's qiyam and rising against Yazid ibn Muawiyah. One of those questions, and let's call it shubha, which is a form of doubt, is there is a verse in Quran, verse 195, and you probably heard this before if you're familiar with the Wahhabi propaganda, and that is that according to Quran, putting yourself in a state of harm is not permissible, it's forbidden. And that's the verse 195. They use this verse to question motivation and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And that ayah is verse 195 of Surah Baqarah. And what they do is they pick one part of the ayah, and that is وَلَا تُلْقُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, which means don't cast on yourselves destruction with your own hand. Don't put yourself in destruction purposely. So they use this ayah as one of the main laws regarding self-harm. Any form of self-harm, specifically suicide. It's not permissible, it's forbidden for a human being, for a Muslim and non-Muslim. As a human being, life is a gift and blessing of Allah, and you don't have this permission to take it with your own will, your own free will. So وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, which is a very important law. One of the greatest sins is committing suicide, regardless of what kind of problems we have. It does not justify someone committing the act of taking life away from their own. Because life at the beginning, at the first place, is not ours to begin with. People said, okay, it's our life, we can decide it. We can say when I want to live and when I have the permission to finish it and to end it. But the reality is that the life is not ours. It's Allah's blessing. And based on that, as a believer, you follow that guideline that the one who blessed us with life, he has the guideline how to take it away as well. We didn't come to this life with our own terms and conditions. We will not leave it with the way we want it. And that's the concept you have to understand. But this is one of those similar misuse of a term that in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam was done as well. Don't go too far, not even the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, even today. If you remember last year in the story of Hajj, when people were killed, innocent people lost their lives, whatever was the cause, whatever was the reason, a lot of those speakers in Mecca and Medina, they started throwing out Quran's verses. That Allah's plan, Allah's qadha and qadar, it was predestined, was nothing that we could do. So they used Quran as a form of justification. And same thing is applied to many dictators. We think only people like Yazid ibn Muawiyah and Arbaeen ibn Sa'd used Quran to justify their crimes. No, even today, in a big picture, tyrants and oppressors, in a smaller picture, human being. I had this conflict of talking to people that husband and wife, they use Quran against one another. They use Nahjul Balagha against one another. It's only a tool for their justification, for justifying their own action. It's not about the truth. It's not that we look for justice. It's not that we look for the truth. It's only whatever I can find from Quran, from the words of Ahlul Bayt that help me to prove my argument, I will use it. So this ayah is being used to question Imam Musa's sacrifice. And they say this is straightforward, that if Imam Musa knew about the risk, that what Yazid said, actually Yazid said, if you don't give me your allegiance, this is what will happen. He knew about the risk of going against Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So he going to that journey and taking that, making that decision itself was a suicide mission. So based on that, Quran says, وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَيْدِكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. So God forbid, Imam Musa went against Quran. That's the question, that's the shubha, that's the doubt. To answer this, first and most of all, whenever you hear a verse of Quran, make sure you have the entire ayah. Second, understand the occasion of revelation, why this verse was revealed. And third, look at the tafsir. So the entire ayah is, Allah said, وَأَنْفِقُوا. So there are a few verses Allah talking to Muslimin and believers regarding their responsibilities. And the last one is that you must spend in the way of Allah. Give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Infaq fi sabilillah is not necessarily only materialistic positions. Anything you give and you spend. Your time, your talent, your money, your resources, and even your life. Give that for the sake of Allah. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. And again, because this is one ayah, it's not separate ayah, what in the translation even you will see, even in tafsir you will see is, don't put yourself with your own hand in destruction with quitting infaq, with staying away from infaq and spending in the way of Allah. Because if you quit infaq, that's your destruction. And then Allah continued, وَأَحْسِنُوا. Do good. Be virtuous. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Still is proactive. So first, do something. Do infaq. And don't put yourself in destruction. And do good. And indeed, Allah loves those who do good. Doers of good. Virtuous people. So the entire ayah, this وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَيْدِكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, is not about making sacrifice. It's about be careful that sometimes sacrifice is essential. That if you avoid sacrifice in any form and any way, which is necessary to be done, then that quitting, that habit of ignoring infaq itself is destruction. And we have riwayah about this ayah that, again, don't think these kind of doubt didn't exist. As I said, what it does, they transform, they change, but the essence of the doubt is the same one. We have in the time of one of the battles, one of the ghazawat of the Holy Prophet, a man, one of the Muslimin, went to the battle against big number of enemies at the time. And some of the Muslims start, shouting that this person, tulqu ba'aydikum ila tahlukat, that's what he did. That's what this man did. Abu Ayyub Ansari, which was Rasulullah's companion, he was there. And he said, don't read this verse. When this verse was revealed, I was there. This verse was revealed about Ansar. Ansar are people of Medina. So this verse was revealed about people of Ansar because what they did was they were looking for excuse to quit jihad. And this verse, وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَأَيْدِكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, was that don't find excuse to escape jihad. Because escaping your responsibility to stand next to the Prophet and do your responsibility and wajib is equivalence of your destruction. That is what this verse for. Not when somebody is actually attempting to perform the jihad. So that's first thing. وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَأَيْدِكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. The entire ayah is mostly focused on the concept that sacrifice is essential. Infaq is essential. And now if you go to common sense, the lives of the Prophet in Holy Quran is an example of that. That when Musa alayhi salam is going to Fir'aun, he's putting his life in risk. And even is asking Allah for support, right? رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي. All this is that, Ya Allah, I'm a simple man, and Fir'aun and his army and his power, I'm going to stand against this tyrant. And Allah said, go. We will strengthen your back. We give you your brother Harun. Go and deliver the message. Take the risk. When it comes to Yusuf alayhi salam, when it comes to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Nimrud, it's all about that. And I'm surprised by people who use Quran against Imam Hussein alayhi salam and they don't know the basics of Quran. The Quran talks about all these messengers of Allah put their lives in line. But not all the time. You can't just put your lives in line for something that is not valuable. There should be something that we consider وَأَحْسِنُ. It should be virtuous. And there is nothing higher than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and doing something for the sake of Allah that makes something virtuous and good. That all the companions of the Prophet himself participated in battles. Battle of Badr, we heard about it. How many people were against how many? Battle of Badr? 313, according to some reports, more than 1,000 enemy. And Allah said, go. وَلَا تُلْغُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. It wasn't applicable then. And Allah said again, if you lose or win, like Battle of Uhud, it's not about the victory itself, it's about doing your part. So to summarize the answer, Rasulullah's decisions was for the sake of Allah. We don't consider that a suicide mission. Same thing for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. That what he does as an imam, as a leader of the ummah, is what is best for the ummah and for the sake of Allah. And it's a noble cause. It's not a random argument. It's not a banal excuse for fight and for going to battle. According to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Marwan ibn Hakam saw Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Medina and told him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, give your allegiance to Yazid and protect your dunya and akhirah. Why you struggle going against him? And Imam alayhi salam said this. Said, وَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ. Said, if Islam is supposed to follow a tyrant such as Yazid, this is done. This Islam is over. This as-salam means the goodbye as-salam. You have to say goodbye to this religion if we have to give allegiance to Yazid. And then Imam alayhi salam said, أَلَا وَإِنَّ السُنَّةَ قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ وَإِنَّ الْبِدْعَةَ قَدْ أُحْيَتْ. I see the sunnah of the Prophet is dying. Not even dying, umitat. And innovation in religion, bid'ah, is getting stronger and stronger. There is no bigger cause than this for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to stand for. And even if you look at to normal human beings, I'm surprised with these people who have these doubts that it was a suicide mission and Imam knew he's putting his life in risk and his family's life. Even people of modern time, we admire anyone who stands for social justice. We talk about, in this society, we talk about people that they put their lives in line and we admire them, right? People, even they're not Muslim. Gandhi, yeah, he gave his life for that cause. Was it Gandhi? And he himself, what he said about Musa aside, but we admire him because he stood for something bigger. He gave his life for something bigger, a noble cause. When we talk about Martin Luther King or we talk about any of these people, modern, contemporary characters. Why? Because they did sacrifice. They didn't, they were not bystanders watching destruction of humanity and destruction of social justice. And the great cause Sayyid al-Shuhada stood for, those who use Quran, was protecting that Quran that they're now using it against him. Protecting the sunnah and the tradition of Rasulullah. That according to Imam Hussein, I stood against Yazid لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. to reform the religion of my grandfather Rasulullah, that they are going astray, they're going divergent from the straight path. And there is no greater cause. So whenever we talk about suicide, understand concept of suicide. When they use this verse, understand the entire verse and the occasion of revelation. And lastly, understand that giving your life, sacrificing for a greater cause, is what something we consider noble. That's something that we honor every human being, even people who are not religious, even people who don't have religion, they don't believe in religion. When you talk about people sacrificing for a great cause, for a noble cause, they admire them. As a human being, we admire that. And that's reality. So inshallah, that would be sufficient for tonight. That was the answer to question why Imam Hussein went to Kufa and Karbala if he knew about the risk. Wasn't this a suicide mission? Wasn't this considered suicide? And didn't Quran said, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ? Hopefully the answer I had with this time was sufficient for the night, inshallah. May Allah, inshallah, remove all doubts, all skepticism, all level of uncertainties from our heart, and help us to reach certainty before death. That yaqeen, we will be able to achieve it prior to the time of departure in dunya, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. There is a tradition by Holy Prophet regarding aql, that Rasulullah said, La deena liman la aqla lah. The one who has no aql has no religion. And there are few characteristics that we have similar tradition. For example, we have this same similar format for La deena liman la haya lah. The one who has no haya has no religion. And there are few, not that many. That La dina liman, for example, the one who, there is no religion for someone who doesn't have this quality. Haya, and one is aql. And this aql, as I said, is blessing of Allah. It's something that is in process of improvement, is in the process of perfection, or opposite. Is in the process of weakening, decay, and destruction. When people like Abu Jahl are being named Abu Jahl, the name of Abu Jahl, first of all, was Abu Hakam, the father of hikmah and wisdom. And after what he did over and over, Rasulullah said, this name is not a good name for this man. Not only what he does to himself, but to people around him, and pursuing people to take this direction in life, it made him a symbol of ignorance. So Abu Jahl. And Aql and Jahl are the two opposites. They stand against one another. And lack of Aql is equivalent of Jahl. The one who have an impaired Aql necessarily has a form of Jahl. And we have many traditions that the biggest punishment of Allah to someone is that they leave, if Allah leaves them in their ignorance. If somebody is just alone with their ignorance, that's the worst form of punishment for someone. So last night I started talking about this tradition, which is from Tuhaful Uqul, which the name of the book is one of our narrator of the tradition, Ibn Shu'bay Harrani. He was born and he lived in the 4th century after Hijrah. So he's one of the old narrator of the hadith. And he has this book, Tuhaful Uqul. Uqul is the plural of aql, wisdoms. And tuhaf, a result, the outcome of aql, the result, the fruit of aql. And he named the tradition of Ahlul Bayt that he collected, Tuhaful Uqul. That the words of Ahlul Bayt is a result of that pure aql of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That alayhi salam, all the Ahlul Bayt, they were pure wisdom and aql. There was no level of ignorance in them because of the responsibility and position that they possessed and they had. And Imam alayhi salam said, if a mu'min, a Muslim, they don't possess 10 characteristics, their aql is imperfect. لا يتم عقل امرئ حتى تكون فيه 10 خصال. That someone's aql will not be complete until they have 10 qualities. And I discussed 2 of them last night. That first, you expect khair from them, you expect good from them, and second, you feel protected from their evil and from their harm. They're the first 2. We explained as much as we could. Just thinking about this, as I said, the application of these to our lives could be a little bit different. The core and the concept is the same. But how is that applicable to my life and how is that applicable to your life could be different. And I know how this hadith could be beneficial to my decisions, to my path of life, to my lifestyle, to my behavior. It's up to us. And I said, Quran clearly explained this in the best way. Allah said the best judge for a human being is himself or herself. In the day of judgment, Allah will say, اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. That we will not ask someone else to tell you what did you do. Surah Isra, Allah said, we will ask the person himself or herself, اقرأ كتابك, read what did you do. Read the document of your a'mal and actions. كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. The best hasib, the best accountant for you is you. That's the reason I said we need self-reflection. That we know who we are better than anyone else. And introspection, inner view of life is much more important than external view. Most of the time we focus so much on external, we think that internal will be fixed itself. It's not. It doesn't work that way. The way of Sayr suluk, the way of taqwa. Taqwa itself is withholding. I talk about aql and taqwa. The root of both words is about human beings' ability to do things that no one can expect. When we talk to people in different occasions, and even I look at my life and I look at those people that I dealt with, I'm shocked and people are shocked with what happens. I never expected that I could have this level of anger. I did something that I never assumed in 1,000 years I would say this, I would do this. This is interesting. Why? Because we're so detached from our own reality and who we are that we are shocked by our own behavior and our own a'mal and actions. And what is taqwa? Taqwa is to understand that self-control. It's all about self-control. When you hear the word taqwa, the translation in English, one is God consciousness. One is piety. One is being, virtuous. All these different definitions. But taqwa itself contains all of them. It is piety. It is being virtuous. It is being God conscious. But what it does, taqwa, it's a lifestyle, is a way of living that has that self-control. The person who is considered muttaqeen, pious, are the one that the way they speak, the way they look, they watch, the way they listen, everything has a filter. We're talking about the concept of freedom, but when it comes to taqwa, taqwa is about understanding that this freedom, when it comes to your nafs and ego, if you let yourself go, is the worst of your enemy. The freedom of self. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you please. Do whatever you enjoy. If you truly think of this as true, I've heard even motivational speakers saying, some of them say this, but just think about this. If we truly do what we truly want, we wouldn't achieve anything in life. We would do nothing. We means as a human race. And I said this many times, look at people, what we do with our day off. Today was an example of that. What did I do with this day? There was no plan, there was no work, there was no school. How did I spend it? I was free, right? I was free. How did I use it? And imagine if every day was like this. What do we achieve? Majority, there are exceptions of course, that they already trimmed their character and they know how to self-control and they know how to plan. But if you leave human being in general, we love wasting everything. We love wasting time. I said one of the biggest industry right now is online streaming. Just reading some articles about that, how many hours of media streaming, online streaming, is only in US. There are already a lot of different visual aid that help us to see that picture, that how many hours of these form of media consumption is out there. What happened to those hours? That I talk to some people, again, I'm not saying I'm perfect, again, I'm a human being, and as a human being, I'm thinking about this, that if we leave us alone, this idea is very relative idea, is very modern idea of binge watching. We had binge eating, was no binge watching. It was people used to watch something and then it was a break and then you come back. Now, especially younger generation, I've talked to a couple of our own youth that, okay, I start watching something Friday night and I finish Sunday night. And we think, oh, how you, it's not something extreme. I think it's, after I talking to this man, I said, no, it's many people like, they do this once in a while. We don't have time to, follow this. We do it at once and again, then we're done with this, then we move on to the next plan. This is human being freedom. And again, there's a lot of studies out there to talk about the eventual side effect of these kind of behavior, extreme behaviors, not only physiological, side effect, psychological side effect of this. This is a human being. Taqwa is about self-control. No one can be the best. The best police for you is you. The best big brother is you. The one who can truly control your behavior, your decisions, your actions is you. And that's what taqwa is. Be your own police. Maintain God consciousness in every level. But to achieve that, don't assume that you can do it overnight. You can achieve taqwa in overnight. As I said in the first, I think it was the second night, I mentioned the shortcuts. For taqwa, there's no shortcut. Taqwa is a practice. It's like monks, we know, our kids know about karate and martial arts and how much practice that requires for people to acquire that form of talent. It's kind of similar of that concept that you need persistence. You need hard work. You need to actually spend time to achieve taqwa. It's a skill. And like every other skill, if you ignore it, it will go away. You will forget it. You will not stay muttaqi forever. You need just few occasions of ghafla and forgetfulness and you will lose it eventually. It will go on the process of decay as well. So going back to the hadith, when you listen to the hadith, use that use that moment of reflection for myself, that what this hadith is telling me, what this tuhaful uqul of Ahlul Bayt, this beautiful fruit of the pure wisdom of Ahlul Bayt is teaching me. And how this could be applicable to taqwa. So the third one, Imam alayhi salam said, يَسْتَكْثِرُ قَلِيلَ الْخَيْرِ مِنْ غَيْرِهِ. The third way that you want, if you want a path of perfection of your aql, is to consider the small favor of people great. Whatever people do, even if it's small, you must consider it يَسْتَكْثِرُ قَلِيلَ الْخَيْرِ مِنْ غَيْرِهِ. You must consider as a huge favor. when others do something for you. Even a small, you consider that great. وَيَسْتَقِلُّ كَثِيرَ الْخَيْرِ مِنْ نَفْسِهِ. Your great favors, your great goods, you must consider it small. When others do something for you, don't say, oh, it's their responsibility. When somebody offers you a cup of water, don't say, oh, it's they want it. I didn't ask for it. Don't be rude. Don't be unappreciative and unthankful. Take it as a great favor. And if you do something even great, imagine you give something big to someone. You donate a big amount of money to someone, or you give your own food to someone. Consider it a small favor. And imagine with that mindset, how this life will move on, how this process of charity will work. Is there an example for that? Quran talks about that, Surah Insan. That when Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and Amir al-Mu'minin Fatima al-Zahra, recite the salawat. When they fasted for 3 days, for the sake of Shafa, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. One day, poor and needy knocked the door. Another day, orphan knocked the door. Another day, slave knocked the door. And a captive knocked the door. Thank you. And for 3 days, يُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ. They feeded, they fed them with their own food. We have the occasional revelation, Surah Al-Insan is for Ahlul Bayt. And Allah revealed this surah for them. Another name for this surah, Surah Dahr. Dahr or Insan. And after they fed these people, they gave their own food. What they said? Said, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. This is an example of Quran and real human beings. So if we fed you, if we did this, we did it for the sake of Allah. And we don't expect jaza'an wala shukura. We don't want shukur, which is appreciation, verbal things. We don't want that. We don't expect it. If you say it, we're not going to stop you. But La nuridu. This is not what we want. This is not why we did it. Wala jaza'an. We didn't do it for reward either. You know, karma style is one of the jaza one. People said, oh, do good, the good will come back to you. That's jaza in my opinion. It's not for the sake of Allah. You do good, that good will come to you. So, that's, you do good for you expect a reward. That reward that one day that you're in need, you will be helped. But these people said, we reach a level that we only do it for Allah and we trust Him and we rely on Him. And this is the aql. This is why Ahlul Bayt have the pure aql and wisdom. And Imam Modarres said, this is the way you should do it. When you do good for people, consider it small. If you consider it small, then if somebody, they didn't say thank you, you will not be offended. I brought this brother food and I put it in front of him and they didn't even say a thank you. Or I did this. I've heard people saying it. Which as a recipient of good, we must appreciate. Remember, I said if you are the one who producing good, consider small. But if you're a recipient, what to do? يَسْتَكْثِرُ قَلِيلَ الْخَيْرِ. If somebody else did something good, consider it a big favor. So on both sides, if they do their part, a lot of conflicts, a lot of loss of motivation will be avoided. People lose motivation because they imagine certain form of appreciation. I know some people, they think when they're feeding homeless and needy, when they go and, ziyarah and they're poor and needy, they want to help, they're orphan kids, you want to help, they have this very Hollywood-style image of helping people. You know, you saw those, you know, very edited and directed form of clips that you give food and that smile is, that child is smiling, that orphan is smiling, and it's a connection. You see those clips, what I'm talking about, the videos? It's very well designed, well performed. But in reality, that's not the case. The reality, I give you an example. One of our ulama was leading the jama'ah. I believe this was Sheikh Adam Ansari. I believe it was him. But let's say one of the ulama. He was leading the jama'ah, and a poor Sayyid entered the masjid. This is the real life example. And he came to the Sheikh, leading the jama'ah, hundreds of people following, it's public. He said, Sheikh, why you're stealing my money? Give us our haqq and our right. You received the khums, and I'm the recipient of that khums, and I never received it from you. You're a thief. And they start, you know, bad-mouthing and say whatever he wants. And the Sheikh said, brother, you came at the time that I don't have any khums with me. Can you come later on? I will give you. I will find and make sure that you will receive the khums. And this guy is poor. And when you're poor, al-faqra yakad kufra. May Allah shall protect us from losing our dignity and honor and reaching poverty in that level without having the tolerance for it, without having the patience for it. He lost his patience. Said, no, 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 right now. And the Sheikh said, I don't have anything with me. So what he did, he spat on Sheikh's face. This is a real example. And now others wants to teach him a lesson, and Sheikh said, sit down. And he tried to comforting to say it again. He just being abused. But he said, can you give me a minute? Sit down here. If you can bring him something, bring him some water, ask one of the follower ma'mumin to do that. And then he started walking on the lines of prayers and said, people, whoever have khums, and they have to pay khums, give me your khums right now. Just give me khums, no sadaqah, khums. So start collecting khums. And he came and he divided and gave the sadat part. He said, okay, take it. And I'm sorry that we didn't know about your problems and we didn't come to you earlier. This is not an infallible we're talking, because when we talk about Ahlul Bayt, said, Sheikh, we know Ahlul Bayt were great, but we're talking about human beings. We're human beings. But Malik al-Ashtar was a human being. Many of our ulama, not one, not two, hundreds of them, they were human beings, but we want to justify our mistakes. It's not my fault that, you know, and I've heard people say, okay, brother, you have to control your anger. Brother, you have to control your tongue. I have shortcoming, but at least accept it. Let's do that. I said, you know, Sheikh, my father was like this. I can't change. It's in my DNA, you know, it's part of me. Best justification, you can just say it as, you know, genetic, and I will not be able to discuss it anymore. And I tell these people that there are many people that their fathers were very pious and mu'min, and their children, they didn't become like that because they chose a different path. And opposite of that is true. There are many people that their fathers were not good people. Amr ibn Abdul Aziz is one of them. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is one of the Bani Umayyah who returned Fadak to Ahlul Bayt. Muawiyah second is the son of Yazid. That he said, I don't want the position of Khilafah. They poisoned him. He died. He was on power for around, I think, 2 months. Because he was outspoken about saying that this is not our right to be here and to lead Muslims. This is the Haqq ala Muhammad salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhim. There are exceptions. So that's the number 3 and number 4. Consider the small favor of others great, and consider your great contributions small. And number 5, Imam alayhi salam said, You don't feel, those people, their aql is perfect, they don't feel disturbed when people come to them to settle their needs. La yamal. They don't feel disturbed. When fuqara, when people in need, when normal people in general, they come for their haja, to settle their need, they come to you. That aql is that person. That if you are the one that people consider you for help, you're the first person they call, that's the greatest of Allah's blessing. That Allah chose you to be the recipient of people's support. Don't be upset that why when people have problems, they contact me. When they have happy things, they don't call me. When everything is good, they don't call me. When they have problems, they call me. That's Allah's blessing. And the aql will understand that. That who is as-sabiqun as-sabiqun ulaika al-muqarrabun. That when it comes to doing good, they compete. That's number 5. If people request and they ask and they call us, be happy, genuinely happy. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me worthy to settle people's need. Number 6, an aql is the one who don't get tired from seeking knowledge his entire life. Ayyamud dahrih. That an aql is the one who consistently is the process of seeking knowledge. And the value of knowledge and all that, alhamdulillah, we have many traditions and we have many books written about this, the importance of knowledge. That's number 6. Number 7, Imam Rida alayhi salam said, recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam alayhi salam said, Al-faqru fillah ahabbu ilayhi min al-ghina. That an aql is the one that poverty for the sake of Allah is pleasant for him, is more pleasant for him from being needless in the price of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger. So poverty for the sake of Allah over being rich and needless going against Allah. Number 8 is also similar. وَالذُّلْ, and humiliation for the sake of Allah. An aql prefer that humiliation over a dignity that is going against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To simplify number 7 and 8, just understand riwayah, the Sufyan as-Suri came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And he said, I reached a level of taqwa that I love sickness over health. And I love poverty over ghina and being rich. And I love death over living. This is the way I look at life now. And Imam alayhi salam taught him a great lesson, which is a great lesson for us. He said, Inna ahlul bayt, we family of the Prophet, we love life when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure is hidden in our living. And we love death if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's satisfaction is hidden in our death. We love poverty that leads us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we love ghina that leads us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We love sickness when there is a test that we pass and we get one step closer to Allah. And we love health, that we have strength to use that health to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we consider taqwa. That Allah is the criteria. If the poverty is the way to seek Allah, go for it. That I have to sacrifice money to reach Him. I have to ignore positions to earn Allah's satisfaction. But when it comes to health, when it comes to honor, Allah said, وَإِنَّ الْعِزَّةَ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Honor and dignities belong to Allah and belong to mu'mineen. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. But this hadith is saying that dhul, humiliation for the sake of Allah, is better than that honor that you consider honor, that the cost of that honor is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's dissatisfaction. And we have tradition by Imam Hassan alayhi salam that those that they seek people's satisfaction over Allah's satisfaction, Allah will leave those people to human beings, not to Himself. Allah will leave him stranded. That you gave up on me, you cut off your hopes from me, now go wherever you intend to find hope, go seek it from there. Imam Rasulullah's life, Arbaeen, we're standing is an example of that. Hayhad minna dhilla. The reality is that the thirst of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, the musibah and the turbulences and afflictions and hardships at the time of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they were in a form of humiliation. That Imam alayhi salam is on the ground of Karbala. That the bodies of Shuhada are not being buried. But the enemies of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they get the proper kafan and ghus and they were buried. But Sayyid al-Shuhada's word is Ilahi ridan biridak. Tasliman liqada'ik la ma'buda siwak. That if your satisfaction is hidden in this, Hussein is happy with that. And of course, Allah promised honor, that it will come to the truth. It will come to the people of Haqq. And going to the word of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, when Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam was on the hand of Sayyid al-Shuhada, we have in Maqatil, one of the word of Sayyid al-Shuhada, this is, you gave your 6-month-old child for the sake of Allah. Imam Hassan alayhi salam said, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qaleel. This is aql. That this child of mine, this my beloved baby, Ya Allah, accept this small token from Hussein alayhi salam. And then inshallah we mentioned the last two, and I don't want to again, because the last night of our majlis, I don't want to leave this incomplete. The number 9, وَالْخَمُولْ أَشْهَى إِلَيْهِمْ مِنَ الشُّهْرَةِ. Number 9, Imam Rida alayhi salam said, sign of perfection of aql is that being anonymous, being unknown, is more beloved and more likely for the people of aql than fame. That uqala, wise people, the one who have perfection of aql, they prefer being unknown over being famous. And there's no need for me to talk about the importance of this. The more and more we do anonymous work, the greater the thawab is. Sometimes the work must be public. We need sadaqah. We have in Quran that Allah talks about fi sirri wal alaniya. We have to do infaq in secret, and we have to do publicly sometimes to encourage others, and sometimes public donations required. But the more and more, if it's possible to keep it secretly, to be unknown, the better, the higher the reward is. Because there is a lower amount of risk of riya in that. And you know why aql has this sign? Because aql, we look for maximum profit. That's so aql, a wise businessman, is the one who look for the best of profit. Is the one who make the best of decision, is the one who vote for the best of people, who take the side of best. That's best, right? And there is no side better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's side. That if I do something for the sake of people, we have tradition that those people who did riyah, they did show off, they had lack of sincerity, and the day of judgment Allah will say, I'm merciful, I'm Kareem. Someone else was shared in this task. You did pray for me and someone else. You did something for me and someone else. I'm Kareem. I forgave my share. Go and take it from that person now. I don't want anything. I forgive my share. To let us know that if you count on anyone beside Allah, Imam Jawad alayhi salam said, disappointment will happen. All due respect to husband and wife, married people, and inshallah very soon to be married. Don't look at your wife and husband as a substitute of God. I felt that something people talk, this is all my life. There's some word of endearment, which is fine. We should have it, and Rasulullah said it and encouraged us. But make sure there's no God-like image of our wife or our husband, which is not healthy. Because when you, God forbid, expect a God-like level from a human being, God-like, again, I'm not talking about decent human being. Oh, Sheikh said don't expect anything from your wife or husband, so it's good for us. What I meant, God-like. God-like, let me give you. People are upset, and I've heard this. Is it, why you're upset? I want this person to do this, but they didn't. And I asked, did you tell them? I said, no, but they should have known. So what do you say? Oh, we know each other. We're soulmates. You heard that, right? We have this telepathy. We are connected. And I said, this poor person didn't know. And it's not that hard to tell your spouse. But as I said, there's that very extreme level of romance, unfortunately, which I believe they give that God sends God-like positions and expectation from a spouse. And what happened? Disappointment happens. Disappointment happens. And when disappointment happens, it will affect our hopes, our image, our affection, our love toward one another. Have a logical, proper expectation. And don't place our hope in anyone beside Allah. Allah finds means that your spouse become a mean of Allah's affection and Allah's love. But he or she cannot replace it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us to reach a state of perfection of aql, or at least move toward progress of becoming a stronger in aql and wisdom, inshallah. And the number 10 I already discussed in the last few nights. That Imam as-salam said, وَالْعَاشِرَةِ وَمَا الْعَاشِرَةِ. And Imam basically provokes curiosity. Said, and number 10, and what is number 10? And companions said, وَقِيلْ مَا هِيَ. Said, what is it? And Imam alayhi salam said, number 10 is, I said it again the last few nights. Anyone remember that one? It was 3 nights ago. Anyone? And number 10 is, if you're sitting somewhere, if you're among people, when you look around you, you don't say anything except that other person, that other people around you, they are aslah and atqa. They're better than you and they're more pious than you. That's aql. That you consider other people better. That you have that sense of destroying arrogance in the highest level. That there is no takabbur anymore. There is no sense of feeling that there is no need for you to be better. Because when I look at our surrounding, I said, okay, this person I know better. This person, of course, I'm better. That person, of course. And Imam alayhi salam said, aqil is the one who don't consider that. Who doesn't consider it this way. When you look at his surrounding, you consider everyone. And Imam continued that tradition with saying that when people you see around you, if you consider them good, of course they're good. So you accompany them to reach and to get benefit from their goodness and from their taqwa. But if someone you consider wrong and bad, tell yourself that maybe they have good qualities that is hidden from your eyes. Maybe they have things that you don't know. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us to actualize what we learn, to practice what we know of our religion, and to seek, inshallah, the level of uqala that Allah, when address people, أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ, that majority, they don't use their aql. May Allah inshallah don't make us one of those, and make us one of those who actually see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's signs in this dunya, and be the companions of the true uqala of the dunya and akhirah, which is Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Last night our majlis, we dedicate this majlis to Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wassalam, and may Allah inshallah help us to have the tawfiq of ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada and his shafa' and intercession in the Day of Judgment. Let's recite a salam together and keep other people who requested dua in your mind and pray for them, that the best of dua is first for others, then for the self. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Husayn ibn Ali. أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله صلى الله عليك يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله. We commemorated Arbaeen of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The first visitors in the day of Arbaeen on the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada was Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, a companion of the Prophet who accompanied Imam Ali alayhi salam and Imam Hassan, but due to his illness and his disability, he was blind, he wasn't able to join Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. But with a group of people, they were the first people who arrived in Karbala, according to many of our historians, in the day of Arbaeen of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Officially, the first visitors in the day of Arbaeen, they came to the graves that there is no sign, there is no indication. Atiyah, the companion of Jabir, he said, Jabir told me, take me to Furat. And as I took him to Furat, he performed ghusl. And as he was performing ghusl, he was crying. And he was saying this to himself, that these people, if you look at this river, all the creatures of God, all animals are drinking from this water, and they didn't let the children of Prophet drink from this water. He performed ghusl and he started walking toward the grave slowly, with bare feet. He started walking. Atiyah said, Jabir told me, take me to the grave of Hussein alayhi salam, my Habib Hussein. And I told them, Jabir, there is no sign. How should I know? He said, take me to the grave. I will tell you. So I take him to the first grave. He pondered for a few seconds and said, this is not the grave of my beloved Hussein. Then I took him to another one until we reached one grave, that the moment he reached that grave, he recited, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Jabir recited the verse of Inna lillah, and after that he started saying Salam to Sayyid al-Shuhada. He said, Assalamu alayki ya ibn Rasulillah. He paused for a few seconds. He said the second time, Assalamu alayki ya ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. He waited for a while and he said, Assalamu alayka ya ibn Fatimat al-Zahra, Sayyidat Nisa'il Alameen. Lastly, he said, Assalamu alayka ya Habibi, ya Aba Abdullah. My dear Hussein, Rasulullah said the answer of salam is wajib. Jabir is saying salam, but we can hear your answer, Hussein. But I know why we can hear your salam, the jawab of salam. For someone to be able to answer the salam, they must have a head on their body. La yawmka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. How you can respond the salam of Jabir when the head of Hussein is in Sham and the body of Hussein is in Karbala. Jabir, Allah is my witness that this day is the hardest day of life of Jabir. Ya Rasulallah, in the day of Ashura, when your Hussein was looking at the tents and the family, last second of the life of Hussein, he saw people are attacking the tents and the family. He tried to stand. He used his sword to stand on his knee. He said, "O people of Kufa, if you don't have religion, if you don't have belief in God, at least be free people until I'm alive. Let my family be. Come to Hussein first until Hussein is alive." He is the one who said that Namus of Rasulullah is the one that must be protected and defended. They surrounded Abu Abdullah from all direction. They attack as much as they could. Blood is flowing from the body of Hussein alayhi salam. They saw Hussein alayhi salam in that moment. He's reciting something. When they approached, they saw and they heard Hussein is saying, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. The narrator said, I swear to Allah that we didn't see any victim, anyone in the state of their death more beautiful than Hussein. وَأَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ اللهم إنا نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم بكتابك المستحكم وبنبيك المكرم وبأهل بيت المعصومين سيما مولانا وسيدنا أبو عبد الله الحسين استجب دعواتنا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. For the sake of the faraj of Imam our time, let's recite Allahumma ajjal li waliyyik al-faraj from the bottom of our hearts 3 times. May Allah inshallah hasten in the reappearance and the end of the occultation of the Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman inshallah. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والناصر ومد في عمره وزين الأرض بطول بقائه واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وشيعته والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور
اللهم أغني كل فقير، اللهم أشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكسو كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله لمن يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.